Hi, welcome to the Voodoo Garden. My name's Ray. I will be your host today. I brought my worm army out because we're going to get a suntan. No, I actually brought them out because I'm going to dump them into my compost. I've been raising worms in this worm thing for quite a few months and I've enjoyed it. They do a really good job. You basically put stuff in here and you get worm castings out of it, which is actually quite remarkable. It's amazing how they work. But I have other things that I need to do, and so I don't really have time to be dealing with this. So I think it's pretty much run its course for me. But I wanted to bring these outside to show you something. It's just really kind of strange, okay? Take a look at this. Now take a look. What a hoot, huh? I got worms everywhere. What I did was I took about maybe 95% of the worms in the worm farm I have over there, and I tossed them into my compost, and I figured, what the heck, it's buffet time. And I brought them out here maybe a month or so ago, and they have been making new worms and going through the entire compost. And by the way, I've dug about maybe a foot and a half down, and there's worms down there. They're literally all throughout this. I turned just a handful of worms into this massive, crazy army of worms, and trust me, they are loving the compost that I made out of the chicken manure and grass and all that fun stuff and the leaves from last year. They are thriving and loving it out here. So now I have an entire trash can full of worms. What I plan to do is take this little bit of compost and these worms and dig it into my garden for the fall and let these things go down and hibernate, and then next spring they're gonna come back up, make more worms, and I'm going to have worms in all of my raised beds. Instead of throwing a handful of worms here and there in my raised beds and taking a chance on the robins getting them, I thought I'd protect them here in my compost, get them nice and fat and juicy, then throw them in with the compost. So I get the benefits of the compost, I get the benefits of the worm castings, and the worms are going to make new worms and really make my raised beds kick a little butt next year. So I'm going to get more bang for my buck. This is all the worm castings. I know it's kind of icky, but see, there's a few worms here and there. And at first I thought, oh wow, this is kind of sad. I don't really have a lot of worms in here. But then I took the top one off and all the sludge that filtered through, there are worms swimming around in this icky, nasty mess. There was supposed to be a piece of newspaper on the bottom keeping the worms from going through. They decided to eat the newspaper, so now I have worm sludge here and they're loving it. And even more so, take a look at this. There's another layer. This is supposed to be the drain layer. They went through there and there are massive amounts of worms in here as well. You would normally think that this would kill them, but no, look at that. The little boogers are just swimming around in their own poo. And I thought this is a little sad because, you know, they do deserve a little bit better home. So I'm going to take this muck, the other 2 trays of muck, toss it into my compost and let them run free and free range for the next couple months until it's time to go in the garden, and then they can really have at it. And you may be asking yourself, Ray, what are you going to do with that worm farm since you're not going to use it anymore? You probably guessed it. I'll tell you what I'm going to do with this. I am going to rinse it out extremely well, use soap and water, maybe some bleach, make sure that everything is squeaky clean and disinfected. I'm going to find a nice box, I'm going to box it up, and I'm going to give it to one of my viewers. Yep, I am going to give this as a present to one of my viewers, and I'm going to find a neat and original way to have a really quick, really fun contest, no special skill required. I will announce the details pretty soon on the Voodoo Garden channel. That way I can get this to you, so that if you are limited on space, whether you don't have a backyard, or whether you don't want to do regular composting, no matter what your reason is, if you want to make something that's really good for your garden, really good for your potted plants, worm compost is the way to go. It is an amazing thing. Just little scraps, you feed these little boogers, they make more little boogers, and those little boogers make some amazing stuff for worm tea, which you know is really good for your garden, and it also makes worm castings, which is really good for your soil. Okay, Rascal and I are going to get going. We need to get this cleaned up. He's licking the lid. I tell you what, that dog really does help a lot. Okay, Rascal and I are going to get going on finishing up all of this mess and getting it nice and squeaky clean for the lucky person who's going to be using this in their house or in their basement. Thanks everybody for joining me on the Voodoo Garden channel. We're out of here. Bye.